Welcome back to Film Buff Bros, and today we're going to be reviewing the best horror movies of the 2000s.
And remember to smash that subscribe button, guys, so we can keep making awesome videos for you.
So without further ado, here's our picks for the best 2000s horror movies. Alright, so my third favorite 2000s horror movie is The Cell. I think that the visuals are absolutely amazing, from the set design, the wardrobe, and even the CGI. They're all phenomenal. They have this dark psychedelic thing going on. Yeah, it's crazy. I love it. Second, I think the story is really exciting. It's well paced, it's succinct, and there's multiple climaxes. Yeah, I really like the story. Next, I think the characters are sympathizable. I really felt for all the characters, even the antagonist. And last, the soundscape is really haunting and the scoring is compelling. Yeah, it really suits the psychedelic visuals. Spoiler alert, I'm just going to talk about one scene from the movie that's really horrific and disgusting. I went and saw this movie with some friends. One of my friends brought his girlfriend, and in the scene, someone has their intestines removed with a rotisserie. They're wheeled out, and she threw up in the theater. It was gross. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of a horrific movie.
So my third favorite horror movie of the 2000s is The Mist from 2007, directed by Frank Darabont. I thought the acting in this film was really bad, but Thomas Jane and a few other actors kind of hold the film. The story, I do like the story. It's got a lot what I enjoy: paranoia, claustrophobia, man versus man, man versus unknown. The camera's mostly handheld and they use a lot of whip zooms, which I usually don't like, but I think it does add to the paranoia of the film. The dialogue was terrible. For the most part, was just totally unbelievable and over the top. I thought the pacing was on par. 10 minutes into the film, the sirens start going off, and then in 25 minutes, the creatures actually show up and attack. The editing seemed like TV movies with all the fades they were doing to pass time. I just think that there's probably whole scenes that could have been removed from the film. I did like the way they depicted the creature at the end in The Mist, because they didn't show it too much. As far as stakes and conflict in the film, it's pretty much apocalypse, end of the world. You're probably not going to get any bigger stakes than that. And I did like the whole theme of mob mentality. But all in all, I think this film is just a guilty pleasure of mine. I think the ending was fantastic and very gutsy and crushing, and it redeems itself a little bit with the ending.
Alright, my second most favorite horror film of the 2000s is Final Destination Part 2. I almost had Final Destination Part 1, but I think they go into character development a little too much in that movie, and in Part 2, you just have these stereotypical characters that are pigeonholed at the beginning, and I think that works well for this tongue-in-cheek slasher flick movie. I like how the Grim Reaper, how death is like this cheeky trickster, and the ways that people die are kind of ironic. The kill count is almost twice as much in Part 2, so it's faster paced. And yeah, it's pretty much like the same movie. It's like a horror comedy, but with less character development, so less seriousness. So yeah, I really like it a lot. I think it's got a lot of rewatchability.
My second favorite horror film of the 2000s is Vacancy from 2007. I think that the story is believable, borderline action movie at the end, which I didn't like, but it does manage, all in all, the story to keep tension throughout the film. The dialogue as well, I think, was believable, and I really enjoyed the check-in scene with Frank Whaley. And as far as Frank Whaley goes, I think he's fantastic in this film. Super interesting, clever dialogue. Really did something with his character in this film. Score was good. The opening song, the title song, because really it's a homage to Hitchcock. But again, there's a lot of overused, familiar sounding score pieces in it throughout the film that we just heard a million times before. Camera angles were great angles, movement. Using the windows as sort of mirrors, I think it all added to the claustrophobia and paranoia. Editing and pacing, I think, was tight. The momentum kept going. I never really tuned out of it. It did keep my attention for the hour and 20 minutes of duration. The ending, not so much a fan of. The whole trope of rediscovering love through trauma to get over trauma. We've seen that a million times. That said, I didn't hate the ending. I just felt it could have been better. Maybe instead of a chase ending, it could have been more of a twist ending.
Okay, so my most favorite horror film of the 2000s is American Psycho. Number one reason, I think, is Christian Bale's performance. Flawless, varied, it's dynamic. He has this arc of going from a psychopath to psychotic, where he completely loses his mind. All the supporting roles are great performances from all the supporting cast. The scoring is awesome. The cinematography is stunning. There is nothing that I can say that is bad about the movie. I think that I like how they don't really show much violence. I think that the book is horrific. I've never felt nauseous reading a book before. I'm glad they cut a lot of the gory, violent scenes and they distilled it down to a character study of Patrick Bateman going from a psychotic or a psychopathic person that kind of has his whole life in order to someone who's completely unraveling. I think that there is a couple scenes from the book that could have been included, but I don't know. The movie's perfect, so it's hard to say that these would have added or even taken away from the film. So there's one scene where there's a conference call happening with Patrick, his friends, and their girlfriends. Super comedic. It's probably the most funny scene in the book. And there's another scene where Patrick is talking to his secretary, Jean, on a park bench, and he's kind of pouring out his heart to her, and he's having this existential and introspective discussion. But I don't know. It's cool in the book, but I think, yeah, it probably would have taken away from the movie. I think in the movie, it probably would have made Patrick more sympathizable and would have made the film less funny.
All right, and my number one favorite horror film of the 2000s is American Psycho, by far. I really like how it establishes the world building right off the bat and makes you invest with the character. I love the use of the music in the film. The voiceover, it's not overused. Very tight editing and pacing of this film. There's so much that happens, lots of momentum. Fantastic humor in the film, one of the funniest films, as well as a very violent film. I think it's a perfect blend of comedy and horror. The dialogue is very clever, very funny. It's sort of a timeless story of a guy losing his mind, but done in such an original way. I really like the open ending as well, where he says it all means nothing, which almost is perfect for an open ending of a film. And it's a very self-aware film, and one of those films that you can go back again and watch and notice something different. Alright, so that concludes our top horror films of the 2000s.
Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for all of our awesome upcoming content.